the next immune, and sometimes it's immune and sometimes it isn't. The next is histamine. So histamine is a very interesting substance. Histamine is held in mast cells, and mast cells are immune cells all throughout the body. If you have a bee sting, and or if you're not even a bee sting, let's take a bitten by a mosquito, and you get this itchy rash, this itchy thing that comes up with a little bump and it's red and you want to scratch it. The substance that creates the vasodilation, the enlargement of blood vessels, which then become leaky, is histamine. So the blood vessels get big, therefore it becomes red, becomes hot, they become leaky, so that fluid goes into the tissues, and as it leaks out, it contains high amounts of histamine, which is itchy and sensitizing. The part of the reason that areas that are red and hot and swollen become sensitive, part of that inflammatory soup is histamine. And so histamine rashes are usually eczema, hives, which is a quick reaction, but itchy eyes, nose, so allergies, asthma has a histamine type response. And we all know that if you take an antihistamine medication, it will damp down that overactive histamine response. But histamine is also released in the gut, so you may get diarrhea. And histamine, vast amounts of histamine are produced in people when they have migraines. So histamine is much broader. Histamine is released in premenstrual syndrome, PMS. The histamine, the story of histamine in terms of diet is one of two things. The first is you eat something which stimulates your immune system so that your mast cells produce amount of histamine, so you are allergic to something, and that histamine causes the area to become swollen, red, and sensitized. So that's the one group of histamine-related foods that may increase histamine in your body. But there's a second group, and this is something which is called a histamine intolerance. And what happens here is that there are foods that reduce the enzyme that break down histamine. They kind of block this enzyme. So the histamine levels start to build up in your body. These foods are an interesting group of foods which cause histamine levels to rise in the body and then start causing histamine symptoms. And they are, number one, sadly, alcohol, but it goes together with it, fermented foods. So all those wonderfully healthy sauerkraut and pickles and so on, they actually block the enzyme and they cause histamine increase in your body. Another thing, and there's everything I really love, aged cheeses. This is very unfair. So I'm just probably very fortunate that I don't have this, because I'm removing a whole lot of things that I think are incredibly yummy. Dried fruit. And so these are foods that block enzymes and cause histamine to rise up. Alcohol, dried fruit, aged cheese, and all the fermented, very healthy in other ways foods that occur in a lot of European countries. They do wonderful fermented and pickles, and a lot in the East, Japan and China, places where, smart people who found that this was before the days of refrigerators, they found that if they were able to somehow stop food from going off, they would be able to put it aside in bottles or just tuck it away in an area and then eat the food later on. Well, the processes that they use increase histamine in your body. And if you are a sensitive person, then you will produce the things that I talked about. So that's another way foods can interfere and can cause pain.